Good morning, everybody. My name is Bailey Cooper from Austin, Texas, and I'm one of Eric Lofholm's trainers. And I'd like to welcome you to Eric Lofholm's 15-minute daily motivational call. It is better than a cup of coffee. Today I want to talk to you guys about rapport, establishing rapport. And Eric tells us that rapport reduces risk. And I like to call this lowering the prospect's guard. And there's been a lot of studies on this, but just from the average consumer driving to work, coming home, from the time span that you wake up to the time that you go to bed, each consumer is exposed to, on average, 5,000 advertisements. So over the years, we've become adept at playing this ping-pong boxing match game. And the way it goes is you see a billboard, no. You hear a radio ad, no. You're watching TV and you see a commercial, no. And you're just constantly bombarding these ads with no's. And instinctively, you're not interested in what somebody's telling you. And that's the reason why people spend so many millions and millions of dollars in marketing, is because they want to subliminally ingrain this idea of what they're selling you so that you think about that. Well, what we learn in sales is once the prospect's boxing gloves are down, that they can actually unplug their ears and give you a fair shot and hear what you're saying. And to create a level playing field, the very first step in the sales presentation should always be to establish rapport, lower the prospect's guard. And in training door-to-door canvassers, there were several tips and tricks and techniques that I taught them that really helped me out when I was implementing my own strategy and utilizing the sales mountain to my own scripts and creating my own processes for my income when I was in direct sales. And the first step is finding a common interest, finding something unique that you have experience with, that the prospect has experience with, and this may take a little bit of homework. Usually with a quick Google search, you can pull up the prospect's email address, and you might be able to find some information there, maybe a social media account, a LinkedIn profile, and maybe see some pictures. Another thing that you can do is ask. Asking the prospect, having a list of questions, where they grew up, where they moved from, how long they've been doing what they do, why they chose to do what they do, and genuinely be interested in them. For further amplification on this, I encourage everybody to read Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. I usually read that book about once a year. There's a lot of excellent strategies, from remembering people's birthdays to training yourself to remember their name and using their name each time that you see them. This has a powerful effect that makes them feel special. And another technique for reducing the risk and establishing rapport, it's so easy it can go right over your head, and that is punctuality. Showing up to an appointment early or on time is pivotal to establishing trust in the relationship on how you're going to deliver your future services if they decide to buy. And so I made this mistake of thinking that 1 minute or 2 minutes late would be okay. And I learned the hard way that a lot of people are very aware of something like being 1 minute or 2 minutes late. And there's been numerous sales that I've gotten just because I thought maybe I was going to be a minute or 2 minutes late. And I let them know that we're going to have to delay our meeting approximately 5 minutes, and they really appreciated that. So time is very valuable, and if you acknowledge that and let the prospect know, usually you can still establish rapport and have trust with that customer. So the very next aspect is a simple handshake. So when you reach out and touch somebody and they touch you back, that human connectivity begins. Their boxing gloves are down. They realize that you're not just a salesperson, that you're a human being just like them, and they can relate in that moment that you shake their hand. It's a very powerful effect, and you can learn a lot about a person by the way that they shake your hand. So, becoming aware of how a solid and firm handshake, what that means, the eye contact, and how a very weak and feeble handshake, what that means. And I encourage you to try this. Tony Robbins talks about mirroring that. So if somebody is really slouched over and really weak when they shake your hand, be really weak when you shake their hand. Just mirror that back to them. And don't make them feel like you're trying to be better than, or you're trying to dominate them. Just allow them to unconsciously be where they're at without psychologically or psychoanalyzing who they are. It's kind of like a poker game. What they perceive, you perceive, they perceive, and you're probably not aware of it. However, when you shake a person's hand, it's just important to just kind of pay attention to how they shake your hand and kind of mirror that back, maintain eye contact, and just move on. Don't pay a lot of mind to it. So these are just a few key principles that what I would do is like a checklist is when I would try and team build and mentor and develop people and make them better. These are kind of like absolutes and musts that I would go back through and say, all right, well, let's go back to basics. Did you do this? Did you do this? Did you do this? And being aware, I think, of different areas to have conversations. Small talk, but not too much, but just enough to, hey, I noticed that you had, a 1980 Roadster in your driveway. That's great, man. Tell me a little bit about that. How long have you had that? What is your history with Roadsters? Or, really generally be interested in it. Another great way is a sports team. Everybody likes sports. But just small talk, casual talk, what I would do when I got into a presentation. And it's important to note that for the first 2 months of me selling home security systems, I was an utter failure. I sold a grand total of 6 alarm accounts at $250 a pop, and I was miserably broke. So upon reading Eric's book, The System, and slapping myself upside the head and realizing it's really important to have trust and rapport right after the appointment setting. But I actually looked at it a little bit differently, is that, my sales mountain, when I run the presentation, it kind of starts back over again. So when I'm in the lead generation and appointment setting, it's almost like I go through the whole sales mountain. And then when I'm actually at the presentation, I'm starting the process over again. I'm building them back up. Even though I may have closed them and they may have been interested when I set the appointment to do business with me, I still want to warm them back up with trust and rapport, identifying their needs, sharing the benefits of my product, closing and objection handling. This is very key that I was missing, is that I would get to the presentation and think that because I had already established rapport, that the rapport was already there, and it wasn't. So adding that ingredient back into it, having the proper attitude in sales. Selling is a learned skill, but the attitude is a lifetime skill. So going into a sales presentation with integrity, with compassion, with leadership, putting their needs ahead of your needs, genuinely wanting what's best for them and not what's best for you, and being willing to walk away if it's not good for them. These are characteristics of people that are going to have an everlasting flow of referrals. And it's really easy to pick up on that. So having affirmations to say before the presentation, truly in your heart of hearts, caring about them. And when you go into that presentation, focus on building rapport first. So I would put my portfolio aside. I would ask if we could sit down in the living room, maybe try and control the conversation, ask for a glass of water or something, and then just spend at least 5 minutes getting to know them, asking them questions about themselves. That's how I established rapport, is asking questions. Now, I want you to know how important it is to actively listen to their responses. So whenever you ask a question, you have 2 ears and 1 mouth. So maybe you could get away with taking a blank notebook to each presentation and just jotting down their answers. Or maybe having a list of questions prepared before the presentation, and then get in there and really pay attention to their responses. And if you have a CRM system, I strongly encourage you to take those notes, dog Spot, and then their daughter's Sam, and Sam is about to turn 16, and their newborn son is Fred, and they moved from Colorado and they go back every summer. Just something as simple as that, but paying attention to those details. If they become a customer, you can incorporate some of those things when you actually send them a thank you note. And it all begins on the rapport process of, lowering their guard. So in December, when I implemented Sales Mountain into my presentation, I closed from 3 deals the previous month to 35 deals in December. In January, closed 32 deals. In February, 31. In July, I closed 50 deals. And I'm sharing this with you is because I was actually working less hours and closing double the amount of sales, because my closing percentage went from 20% to 60 and 70% consistently this year. So now I had that skill. It's an asset to me. I can take that into any job. And currently, I'm on the job market because that company is no longer in business, and I'm taking this skill set. I actually met with a CEO yesterday of a very successful solar company here, and I was able to pinpoint a problem and identify it and provide a possible solution. And they recruited me, and then they wanted to actually put me in a bigger role that they didn't even recruit me for, based on the amount of information that I have. And I credit that to Eric Lofholm's training. And I want to share this with you guys, is that you guys have to believe. Eric talked this morning about the power of belief. And when you're surrounded by a community that believes, you stack the odds in your corner, because subconsciously you believe and you take actions that seem impossible, and phenomenal results can happen. And that's what we have here in our Eric Lofholm community. So I encourage everybody to reach out if you're struggling with somebody. Hey, I'm having an issue with rapport. I don't know what it is. Or, hey, I'm having an issue with overcoming objections. Can somebody help me out? And we're all here for each other. And share this on Facebook. Share this call. And saleschampion.podbean.com. And then make sure to include the hashtag ELINation or Eric, hashtag Eric AM call. And then also he does a 5:45 Pacific morning call, and that's successprep.podbean.com. And Share it to your friends, your coworkers. Let's get more. I think we had 11 people on the call this morning, and I look forward to the day when we've got over 1,000 people calling in every single morning to jumpstart their day. I want to thank all the other trainers for stepping up to the plate. Your calls have really meant a lot to me as where I'm at in my life right now. I'm going through a lot of emotional and financial hardship, and tuning in consistently every morning really helps me get a hold of my mind and start my day on a positive note. So thank you. And you guys have greatness inside of you. Go out there and conquer this day, and we'll talk to you later. Thank you so much. Bye.